Is your Rhode Island home becoming too expensive to keep? If you own a home in Rhode Island right now, there's a good chance your home is worth more than it has ever been worth. And that sounds like great news. But here's the uncomfortable question a lot of homeowners are quietly asking. Is my home also becoming more expensive than ever to keep? Because many Rhode Island homeowners are in a strange position. On paper, they may have a lot of equity. Their home value may be way up. They may have made one of the best investments of their life, but month to month, they're feeling the pressure. Property taxes, insurance, utilities, repairs, heating costs, maintenance, aging systems. And the bigger question becomes, does this home still make sense for the next chapter of my life? Hi, I'm Jeff St. Germaine with the St. Germaine Real Estate Group at Keller Williams Coastal Realty here in Rhode Island. And today, I want to talk directly to Rhode Island homeowners, not just people who are ready to sell next week. I'm talking to anyone who is starting to wonder, should I stay? Should I sell? Should I downsize? Should I renovate? Or should I at least find out what my real options are? And before we get into it, if you're curious what your Rhode Island home may be worth in today's market, comment value below. No pressure, no sales pitch, just useful information so you can make better decisions. Now let's get into it. Part 1, house rich, but feeling squeezed. One thing I hear from homeowners all the time is, Jeff, I know my house is worth more than it used to be, but everything else is more expensive too. And that really sums up the moment we're in. A lot of Rhode Island homeowners are what people call house rich. The house itself has become a very valuable asset. Maybe you bought years ago. Maybe you bought before prices jumped. Maybe you refinanced into a lower rate. Maybe you've paid your mortgage way down. Or maybe you own your home outright. So yes, on paper, you may be in a very strong position, but equity does not always make your monthly life easier. You can have a home worth a lot of money and still worry about the next big repair. You can have hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity and still feel squeezed by taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. And that's not poor planning. That's reality. Homes change, markets change, costs change, and most importantly, our lives change. The home that was perfect 10 or 20 years ago may not be perfect today. The yard that once felt like a blessing may now feel like another job. The stairs that never bothered you may now be something you think about. Those extra rooms that once made sense may now sit unused. So this is not just a financial question, it's a life question. Does the house still fit the way you live now? Part 2, the real cost of keeping a home. When people think about the cost of home ownership, they usually think about the mortgage. But for many longtime Rhode Island homeowners, the mortgage may not have even been the biggest issue. Some people have a small mortgage, some people have a low interest rate. Some have no mortgage at all. But that does not mean the home is inexpensive to keep, because the true cost of ownership includes everything else: property taxes, homeowners insurance, heating, electricity, water, sewer, landscaping, snow removal, tree work, driveways, roofs, windows, appliances, plumbing, electrical, and the surprise repairs that never seem to happen at a good time. It's never the boiler on a quiet week when you have nothing else going on. It's the boiler in the middle of winter. It's never the roof when you were planning for it. It's the roof when you were hoping to get one more year. And in Rhode Island, we have a lot of older homes. That's part of our charm. Capes, colonials, ranches, cottages, Victorians, mill homes, and waterfront properties. They have history. They have personality. But older homes also have older systems. And systems eventually need attention. So the real question is not simply, can I afford the mortgage? The better question is, can I afford the home? There is a difference. Okay, part 3, the emotional side of staying. Now let's be honest. For most homeowners, this is not just math. A house is not just a building. It's where your kids grew up. It's where holidays happened. It's where you planted the garden. It's where you built the deck. It's where neighbors became friends. It's where life happened. So when someone says, why don't you just sell? Well, that can feel way too simple, because selling a home can feel like closing a chapter, and that deserves respect. At St. Germaine Real Estate Group, we never want a homeowner to feel pushed into a decision before they're ready. Some people should absolutely stay in their homes. If the home still fits your life, your budget, your mobility, your family, and your peace of mind, staying may be the right move. But there is a difference between choosing to stay and staying by default. Choosing to stay means you've looked at the numbers, considered your options, and decided, hey, this still works for me. Staying by default means you haven't really looked. Maybe the idea of moving feels overwhelming. Maybe you don't know where you would go. Maybe the process feels too big. Maybe you keep saying, we'll figure it out later. And I understand that. But avoiding the conversation does not make the decision go away. It just pushes it further down the road. Part 4, does the home still fit? Now here's a question every Rhode Island homeowner should ask. Does my home still fit my life today? Not the life you had when you bought it. Not the life you had when your kids were young. Not the life you had 10 years ago. Your life today. Are you using the space? Are there rooms you almost never enter? Are you heating and cooling areas you do not need? Is the yard still enjoyable, or has it become a burden? Are the stairs becoming a concern? Is the layout still practical? Are repairs becoming manageable, or are they becoming stressful? Do you still feel comfortable in the home? Or does it feel like the home is starting to manage you? That last one matters, because there comes a point when some homeowners are just no longer really enjoying their home. They are managing it. Managing repairs, managing bills, managing upkeep, managing space, managing worry. And if that is where you are, it may be time to at least explore your options. That doesn't mean you have to sell. It means you deserve clarity. And that's really what we try to provide at the St. Germaine Real Estate Group. Not pressure, but clarity. Part 5, where would I go problem? One of the biggest reasons Rhode Island homeowners hesitate to move is simple. Where would I go? And honestly, that's a fair question. Selling is only one side of the decision. You still need to know what comes next. Would you buy another home? Would you downsize? Would you move into a condo? Would you rent? Would you move closer to family? Would you look for a one-level living situation? Or would you stay in the same town? Would you want less maintenance? Would you want walkability? These are real questions. And in Rhode Island, they can be complicated. We are a small state. Certain types of homes are in high demand. One-level homes are very popular. Condos can be competitive. Smaller homes in desirable areas are not always inexpensive. That is why I don't think homeowners should just wake up one day and say, let's sell. A better approach is to understand the options first. What could your current home sell for? What would you actually walk away with? What would the next home cost? Would you buy first or sell first? Time both carefully. Once you know the path, the decision becomes less intimidating. Part 6, downsizing is not always simple. You know, a lot of homeowners say, maybe I should downsize. And downsizing can be a great move. Less space, less maintenance, less yard work, a more practical layout, maybe one-level living, maybe a location that fits your life better. But smaller does not always mean cheaper. A smaller home in a desirable area can still be expensive. A condo may reduce exterior maintenance, but it may come with a condo fee. One-level home may be easier to live in, but those homes are often high in demand. So before you assume downsizing solves everything, you need to run the numbers. What would your current home realistically sell for? What would you net after expenses? What would the next home cost? Would your taxes go down? Would insurance change? Would condo fees replace some maintenance costs? Would your monthly lifestyle actually improve? Because the goal is not just to move into a smaller home. The goal is to move into a better fitting life. That is a much more important conversation. And that's the kind of conversation we help homeowners have every day. Part 7, renovating versus selling. Another option is renovation. And sometimes renovating makes perfect sense. If you love your neighborhood, you love your location, and the home has good bones, improving the home may be the right move. Maybe you update the kitchen. Maybe you renovate a bathroom. Maybe you improve accessibility. Maybe you add a first floor bedroom. Maybe you replace old systems and stay another 10 years. That can be a great plan. But here's the caution. Not every renovation pays you back. And not every renovation makes sense for you and your long-term goals. Before putting $50,000, $75,000, or $100,000 into a home, Ask yourself, am I improving this home because I truly want to stay? Or am I spending money because I'm avoiding the decision to move? That may sound direct, but it matters. Because sometimes people spend a lot of money on a home they may not stay in very long. And when they eventually sell, they do not always get every dollar back. Renovating can be smart. Selling can be smart. Staying can be smart. But the key is making the decision with a plan. Part 8, the 3 numbers every homeowner should know. If you are a Rhode Island homeowner, I believe there are 3 numbers you should know before making any major decision. Number 1, what is your home realistically worth today? Not just an online estimate, not just what a neighbor thinks. A real market range based on location, condition, updates, layout, recent sales, and buyer demand. Number 2, what would you actually walk away with? The sales price and your net proceeds are not the same thing. You have to consider your mortgage payoff, closing costs, repairs, and other costs. And number 3, what would your next move really cost? That might mean buying another home, renting, buying a condo, moving closer to family, relocating, or staying and renovating. Until you know those 3 numbers, you are guessing. And guessing is not a great strategy when you are dealing with one of your biggest assets. At the St. Germaine Real Estate Group, this is where we like to slow the conversation down. Before you make a major decision, you should understand the numbers, the options, and the likely outcome. Part 9, waiting can be smart or costly. Now, let's talk about waiting. Sometimes waiting is the absolute right decision. There is nothing wrong with staying in your home. There is nothing wrong with saying, I'm just not ready. But waiting should be a decision, not an accident. Because waiting can be smart if you have a plan. But waiting can become costly if you're avoiding the conversation. If the roof is getting older, waiting may make that repair more expensive. If the heating system is aging, waiting may create an emergency later on. If stairs are becoming difficult, waiting may just make that move harder. If the home needs preparation, waiting may limit your options. If the type of home you want is hard to find, waiting may mean you need more time than you expected. That's why the best time to explore your options is usually before you have to. Not when the home becomes too much, not when a repair forces your hand, not when family is pushing you. Before that, when you still have control. So, is your Rhode Island home becoming too expensive to keep? Maybe, maybe not. But the only way to know is to look at the full picture. What is your home worth? What is it costing you to stay? What repairs are you expecting? And what would it cost for you to leave? And does the home you own today still fit the life you want tomorrow? This is not about pushing every homeowner to sell. Some people should stay. Some people should renovate. Some people should age in place. Some people should downsize. And yes, some people should sell and move on to something that fits better. The point is not that there is one right answer. The point is that you deserve to know your options. If you're a Rhode Island homeowner and you've been quietly wondering about this, comment value below. I'll help you get a clearer picture of what your home may be worth and what your real options could look like. No pressure, no obligation, just clarity. That's what we believe in at St. Germaine Real Estate. Hey, I'm Jeff St. Germaine with the St. Germaine Real Estate Group at Keller Williams Coastal Realty. If this was helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. And remember, let's make your next move the right move.